The chamber was electric, cameras flashing, voices hushed, as Karoline Leavitt leaned into her microphone with the smug assurance of someone convinced she had cornered her opponent. She sharpened her words into daggers, aiming them directly at Representative Jasmine Crockett, expecting the audience to witness a political takedown. But before her sentence could fully settle into the air, Crockett's eyes flashed with a steel resolve that sliced through the tension. What happened next was not a debate, it was a dismantling. One savage line turned the hunter into the hunted, and in that instant, the stage was set for humiliation no one saw coming. This was not just an exchange of barbed words, it was a cultural collision. To Leavitt, it was an opportunity to grandstand, to prove that her rising star in conservative politics could bulldoze anyone in her path. To Crockett, it was survival, proof that voices of immigrants, progressives, and the historically silenced could not only resist but roar. Millions online were watching in real time, the stakes heightened by the symbolic weight of two Americas clashing at a single table. Every word held the power to confirm stereotypes or shatter them. The duel was no longer about policy, it was about identity, belonging, and dignity. Karoline Leavitt had built her brand on confrontation, a political apprentice molded in the fires of Trump-era combat. At only in her 20s, she marketed herself as the sharp-tongued warrior of the right, unafraid to mock, dismiss, and bulldoze. To her supporters, she was fearless, to her critics, she was reckless. And in moments like this, she thrived, drawing energy from scorn and condescension, wielding ridicule like a weapon. But beneath the polished confidence was a hunger, the need to prove that youth and ideology could eclipse experience. In her mind, Crockett was just another obstacle, another pawn to steamroll. She couldn't have been more wrong. Jasmine Crockett's journey was not polished in privilege but carved through resistance. A black woman from Texas, she carried the weight of systemic barriers on her shoulders, transforming them into the fire that propelled her into Congress. A lawyer by trade, her career was forged in the defense of the marginalized, the overlooked, the silenced. Crockett's voice was more than rhetoric, it was a vessel of lived truth, sharpened by years of fighting battles where the odds were never in her favor. When she stepped into that chamber, she didn't just carry her own ambition, she carried the dignity of those dismissed by voices like Leavitt's. The clash began with the precision of a prizefight. Leavitt jabbed first, her words slick with disdain, dismissing Crockett's record, mocking her passion, questioning her intelligence. Crockett absorbed it, her silence deliberate, her stare steady, a storm gathering in plain sight. Each smirk from Leavitt only stoked the fire, tightening the spring that was about to snap back with unrelenting force. The crowd leaned in, sensing the moment of combustion. Then, Crockett leaned into her mic, her voice measured but loaded with dynamite. The air thickened. What had begun as mockery was mutating into something far more dangerous, a stage where Leavitt's own arrogance would detonate. Then came the line, the kind of line that doesn't just end a debate, but etches itself into political folklore. Crockett's words rolled off her tongue with surgical precision, each syllable slicing deeper into Leavitt's false bravado. It wasn't loud. It wasn't chaotic. It was calm, devastating, final. Leavitt's smirk collapsed into silence, her eyes darting as though searching for an escape hatch that wasn't there. The chamber froze. Gasps cracked the air. In that single moment, roles reversed, the accuser became the spectacle, the aggressor became the cautionary tale. Crockett didn't just answer, she obliterated. And when she leaned back, the silence was louder than any applause. The video went viral within minutes, spreading like wildfire across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Millions watched Leavitt's face crumble, millions more replayed Crockett's words, savoring the precision of the takedown. Comment sections filled with cheers, memes, and hashtags that cemented the humiliation as permanent record. Progressive circles hailed it as vindication, even neutral audiences admitted they had witnessed a moment where authenticity crushed arrogance. For Leavitt, the fallout was brutal, mockery from opponents, unease from allies. For Crockett, the spotlight burned bright, illuminating her not as a victim of attack but as the living embodiment of resilience. A cultural tide had shifted, and the ripples were only beginning. At its core, this wasn't merely about two women sparring under the bright lights of politics. It was about what happens when condescension collides with conviction, when arrogance underestimates authenticity. Crockett's triumph was not just rhetorical, it was symbolic. She reminded millions that silenced voices, when finally unleashed, carry a force too powerful to dismiss. And for every young, immigrant, or marginalized viewer, the message resonated with unshakable clarity. Your story is your strength, and when wielded with truth, it can topple even the loudest adversaries. The moral was sharp, undeniable: never mistake passion for weakness, and never underestimate the power of belonging. As the echoes of that chamber continue to reverberate, one truth remains: history remembers not the noise makers but the truth tellers. Jasmine Crockett turned humiliation into inspiration, transforming a routine exchange into a cultural lightning strike. And while Karoline Leavitt's silence spoke volumes, the real story was the millions who saw themselves in Crockett's defiance. If this moment moved you, if it reminded you that dignity matters, that representation matters, don't just watch. Amplify. Share. Be part of the chorus that refuses to be silenced. Because every comeback, every clapback, every voice raised against injustice brings us one step closer to the America we deserve.